Pandaemonium is here, gearing up in my first impressions, and it's interesting because I'm watching this on reset day. So I already did my second raids, and I already got right now the first pieces that I got. I did not follow like Balance Discord Bis or anything like that. I was like, I want the chest piece first, and after I got the chest piece, I was like, guess I'm getting gloves and boots after. Boom. That's pretty much been my thought process. So that's what I got from the raid so far. But I'll comment alongside whatever Zepla is going to be talking about because I have some stuff to say about the raid as well. I talked about it in that video that I released not that long ago on the channel as well.
Hey Buns, so the first tier in the raid series for Endwalker has been added to the game, that being FFXIV. The normal mode version is in the game now. It came with patch 6.01 this week. And
coming up with a bit of a cold there, Zepla, I think.
Savage will come with patch 6.05 expected on January 4th. Now, there are 4 bosses here in this raid tier, and each boss...
I am so incredibly scared of Savage. I think Savage is going to resize... It's going to resize my... It's going to be like... It's right now it's like this. It's going to be like... This is... This is going to... Savage gonna like resize it.
Is on a different layer or a different circle. There's 4 circles in FFXIV, but in spite of that, none of it actually feels pointless. I'm going to talk about the raid story, of course. That's going to be heavy spoilers, so I'll put that in the spoiler section later in the video.
Okay, so the story is going to be in the spoiler section later, so for now you're safe.
Thanks for the controller guide, Ruri. It was super helpful.
Sarah Pod, thank you very much for being Grilson Ganesh for 8 months. Tip of the hat. Appreciate the support. Thank you. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope that more people get benefit from whatever knowledge I've accrued from playing as a controller player.
I will be showing footage from these fights throughout this video, and so if you'd rather not know the identity of some of the bosses that we will be fighting, then maybe it's better just to listen until I get to the warning of the spoiler section. The story is related to the main story quest. Like, it adds on extra. It's a little cherry on top of the main story quest. So if I were you, I would not want to hear about the raid story if I have not finished the Endwalker story, because it's going to lessen the impact of some of the events that should be a surprise for you when you get to them in Endwalker. I want to talk about the new gear that they added that you can get from doing these raids, and how that fits into the gearing up structure. I'll explain gearing up for people that are new. I want to talk about my general impressions of the fights so far. Of course, yes, these are only the normal mode versions that Savage will release later, but I want to give my thoughts on what we have now, and maybe some speculation about how Savage could be, general aesthetic, mechanics, all that kind of stuff. So that part will not be spoilery. Later on, we will get in the spoiler. But like I said, I will be showing footage from the fights themselves, so be mindful of that. Okay, let's hop to it. Okay, so first let's talk about gear. So by killing bosses in...
Yes, let's talk about gear. Let's talk about gear. Why don't we all talk about gear for a little second? Let's talk about this. Shall we talk about this? Dude, I really need to get a soundboard with the drill instructor from Full Metal Jacket so that I can just press a button and go like, what is that? What the fuck is that? What is this? I mean, come on, dude. I mean, come on. What kind of a self-respecting tank wears this? I mean, I'm wearing this right now because, you know, it is what it is. You can glam it away, but it's just not very good for tank, I feel like. I feel like for healing, it's perfect. For casting, it looks good as well. I don't know about aiming. I guess it's fine. Particularly for dancers, I think it looks good. Striking, that looks all right. For Reapers, I don't know about that. I don't know about that for Reapers, but I guess it worked. Even for Dragoons, Reapers are Dragoons. I don't know about that, dude. Scouting, I don't know about that either. It's like, I think that for class appropriate stuff, I think that aiming's all right, healing's all right, casting's all right, striking, sure, but like maiming, scouting, And fending? No.
Asphodelos, you can get currency for the new eye-level 580 Limbo gear. There are 4 bosses in Asphodelos, 1 for each floor, or circle, as they're called, and you can get 1 gear token from each boss per week, for a total of 4 tokens every week. Now, the last boss from the 4th circle of Asphodelos also drops a guaranteed blade token, and that goes straight to your bag when you kill him. So you're guaranteed to get it if you kill him. You get 1 blade every week, and you want to make sure that you do it every week, because once you save up 7 blade tokens, you can turn in the 7 blades for a very nice weapon. Now, those weapons are not in the game yet, but they will be added with the patch 6.05 on January 4th. So you want to start collecting them now. What I'm saying is make sure you kill at least the last boss from the 4th circle every single week. But, I mean, ideally, you can go ahead and get gear tokens from everybody, right? As for the gear tokens from each boss, as you can see here at the vendor, now there are 2 different vendors that you can visit. Just up to you, just whatever's more convenient for you. Each Limbo armor piece costs a certain number of unsung tokens. The Limbo hat, for example, costs 2 unsung helm tokens. The chest costs 4 chest tokens, and so on. Now, since you can only get...
So I want to add something here, because this is something that I've noticed a lot of people were not aware of how this worked when I did the raids in my stream first. People were really confused as to the way that I was rolling on gear. And I understand there's also a lot of people coming from WoW and stuff, and you guys don't know exactly how it works here. So let me explain something to make it very clear for everybody to understand how gearing works in brand new raids in Final Fantasy XIV, okay? You can literally get anything that you want from these raids, okay? That's one of the things that you need to get your mind set into. This isn't like WoW, where you raid, and then as you do your raid, it's just like, oh, I guess I was unlucky with the rolls. Too bad. I guess I'll come back next week. That's not how this works. You can literally get anything that you want. So like she said, each boss drops a certain amount of tokens, right? You look at the tokens on each boss, and it's like you can get any token that you want. The way that it works, though, is you might not get it on your first try. But if you don't get saved as having loot until you get loot. So the idea of like needing/greeting, don't do that. It's like need on the thing that you definitely want and pass on everything else. And that way, if you don't get it, you can repeat the boss and try again. So basically, you will get whatever you want eventually. It's like every single week you can get whatever you want. So to give you guys an idea, on the first week, I wanted to get the chest piece. I'm not saying that's the best way to go about it. That's what I wanted. And so basically, I did every boss in the raid until I was able to get 1 piece of the chest piece out of each boss, because you need 4 pieces of chest piece to get the chest piece, right? You need 4 tier tokens for the chest. And so that's what I did. I did all of the bosses until I got 4 chest tokens. Then I went and I traded in. If you want to get gloves, you only need 2 pieces. So, you roll for the gloves on whatever boss the gloves drop. If you want to get the boots, you only need 2 pieces as well. So roll for the boots on whatever boss that drops. If you want to get the helm, you only need 2 pieces as well. If you want to get a ring, you only need 1 piece. So it's just like, pick your poison. Like, just know that you can have 4 tokens every week and decide what you want. You want an armor piece? You're going to need all 4 tokens to be armors. You want gloves and boots? You need 2 glove tokens, 2 boot tokens, and you can get those in 1 week. Just remember, only roll need on the things you actually want, and don't roll greed, because you don't actually want greed. You just want specific items and roll on those. Do not roll need on everything, because otherwise you might end up with like, oh, I have 1 token for gloves, 1 token for boots, 1 token for armor, and 1 token for helmet. What can I get with all this? Nothing. You can wait for next week. That's what you can get. So pay attention. Pay attention to what you're doing, but just keep in mind that you can get literally anything that you want, so long as you're willing to do the raid multiple times and it's not on a weekly lockout. It just locks out when you finally get your gear.
1 token from each boss per week, like we went over. Most of these items require more than one token to get the actual item. So it would be smart to plan ahead what you want to roll for rather than just rolling need on everything willy-nilly. Like, I've made that mistake in the past where I just wasn't even thinking, I just click need. But that's a problem, because if you do that, then you might end up with like one unsung chest token, one for the hand, one for the hat, one for the pants, and we don't have any. You don't
Maybe I should have waited until she said this part.
have enough to get anything before the next lockout.
Sorry, Zepla.
So like this week, I was smart this time. I planned ahead. I got 2 foot tokens from circle 1, circle 2. Then I got 2 gloves tokens from circle 3, circle 4. So I was able to get my new gloves and shoes this week. And my friend got...
That's what I did this week. Last week I got the chest. This week I got shoes and gloves.
4 chest tokens, so they're already running around with their new chest piece. If you're not sure what to roll for,
That's what I did.
Advice on desirable pieces to get right now for your job, I would recommend checking the balance Discord for that. Namely, check the pinned posts. Check the pinned posts in your respective job questions channel or the job resources channel for recommendations. But don't get too worried about that. Don't worry too much, because the new crafted gear, which is also eye level 580, same as this limbo gear, we're assuming, but most likely, like 99%, will be eye level 580. That's going to release with the patch for Savage on January 4th. And the crafted gear is often as good, if not better, than the normal raid gear or the gear that the accessories or weapons you can get from Extreme Trials, because you can slap 5 materias on crafted gear. That's a lot of...
Okay, you can't just slap 5 materials on crafted gear, okay? You have to overmeld or whatever. You have to limit break the gear. And you might have to spend a lot of resources to do that.
Stats you can squeeze onto crafted gear. Now, crafted gear can be expensive, but maybe you have some crafter friends that can help you out. But
maybe I have some crafter friends that can help me out. Right, Hollowed? Maybe I have some crafter friends that can help me out get crafted gear. Maybe I have some crafter friends. Just don't be poor.
Of course, whether or not the crafted gear is going to be best for your job will depend on your job, will depend on what substats are important for you with your job. But basically, like, if you're not raiding Savage week 1, you don't necessarily need a full crafted set. I guess your priority would be more item level.
Pentamelded
Item level for
crafted
gear
set
is going to be same as a normal raid gear, so don't stress too much about this. Of course, the patch on January 4th, in addition to crafted gear, will give us the new tombstone gear. I'm referencing this infographic created by Veracity. I will link to it in the description box, which very neatly explains the gearing structure as it stands right now, where we are now, like what's available now, what will be available after patch 6.05, if you prefer like more visual explanation of how all this works. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask about that in the Sprout Help channel of my Discord. 580 gear is now. Get it. That's what I'm saying. Also, can we talk about how beautiful these sets are? The Limbo gear is so
What? I can't. She broke my brain, dude.
so elegant. It's so free flowing. It looks comfy as well. Like, it's very dignified, but also comfy. And I think my personal favorite is the fending one.
No. What? No, Zepla, why?
Flowing. It looks comfy as well. Like, it's very dignified, but also comfy. And I think my personal favorite is the fending one, though. Like,
Zepla, no. Why? Like, seriously, look at this. Like, what is this gonna protect? What is it? I mean, somebody slashes at you and you're dead. Like, that's it. Somebody slashes at you, and as you're lying there bleeding, the creature that slashed at you goes like, "You should have worn plate, brother." Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's just cloth. This does not say tank at all. No, it doesn't. I wholeheartedly disagree. But I mean, I know that a majority of Final Fantasy XIV players like cloth stuff. This is why you see people in like, you know, regular clothing all the time. That those are usually the most desired glamour pieces, as far as I'm aware. Like I still remember that one time that I picked up like a bolt of cloth from like a treasure hunt that I did, like this random blue bolt of cloth, and I went to the auction house and it was worth like 800K. And I was like, why is this worth 800K? And then I think it was Muse. Muse linked me the item that you could craft with it, which was a set of panties with a little blue ribbon. And he's like, this is why that's worth 800K. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
It's quite regal. They give a little silver crown. Like I said, elegant. Elegant is the word that comes to mind to describe many of these sets. Though I also really, really like Mei Ming. Mei Ming, actually, I might like... It's hard to decide if I like that more than Fending, but because I'm always going to be a sucker for the thigh straps. Like, I love that thigh strap. One thing I love about the Mei Ming set is that it has this asymmetry. It's so pleasant to look at because you have like the long white sleeve with the black glove. Then you have no sleeve and the white glove with the long draping fabric counterbalancing the long sleeve. So it's very thoughtfully done. It's just so, it just feels so perfectly balanced. Striking, of course, very similar. It's just a recolor
Striking, I
of the
like.
Naming one, so it's also
Striking,
the
like I said.
scouting one feels a bit more traditional, so I'm less crazy about it. I do like the mesh collar jewelry there. On females, you've got a little like gap on your shorts, which I think looks better than for the boys. You just like have normal pants, I think.
A little bit thigh gap. Yep, everybody loves thigh gap. Let's be real here. It is what it is. You know, hearts in chat for thigh gap,
which is less interesting. Yeah, like, I think boys should have gotten the booty shorts, but that's just my opinion. Aiming.
No, no, we shouldn't.
Is a recolor of scouting, so not much more to say on that. The casting and healing ones, they share a model, but I personally prefer the lighter one because I think it better emphasizes these like.
I think
long,
casting
thin
and healing are
ribbons
like
that
the
give
best
structure to this
looking
otherwise
ones.
like droopy drapery. Like also the only thing is I'm kind of not sure about the torso part. I almost wish that the back and the front were swapped, but maybe that would be too much booba. Overall, they're all gorgeous, and I really am kind of splitting hairs here. I don't think anybody got a bad looking set. They all look great. Though you will need to
I disagree with that, but I'm not
be a
gonna.
savage to dye it. So that is why glamour is the end game. Moving on to my general impressions of the fights. I think we gotta talk about that music because, like, the first time that I heard this little interlude, and you know what I'm talking about if you've heard it, I was like, what was that?
I was not a big fan of the music for this raid tier. It's just, for me, it's kind of weird, particularly coming off of like, listen, I did all the raid tiers, right, as I was at the appropriate level. So it's like Alexander from Heavensward, friggin' bangers all over. I mean, even Coils. Coils is really, really good. I mean, I say even Coils because I also did Coils, but Coils I got carried because there wasn't enough people to queue for Coils. But it's like, so you got Coils, which is bangers. You got Alexander, which is bangers all around. You got Omega, tons of bangers. You got friggin' Shadowbringers, dude. Shadowbringer raids, friggin' Eden. Eden is amazing. I love the soundtrack on Eden. Friggin' blew me away, right? I mean, again, Alexander, Omega, Eden, Coils, all bangers. And then you have this, and this just didn't hit. It didn't hit. Like the fourth one's really cool. The final tier boss, really, really cool. But the three previous ones, it wasn't as good for me. Yeah, like look at this. It's just not my style. It's not bad.
Ding, 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 ding. It's like a 1920s player piano sound. It's very weird, but it actually works. It's like, I think they were trying to make it seem retro. This is beyond retro. Like this is vintage territory. And then we're thrown right back into like spooky, doomy raid boss music, and I love it. I really love it. It's weird. I love how they're not afraid to experiment with music in this game. Like, I never know what the hell to expect. And that's especially true of the final boss music, which was so fun. It's like so melodic.
Final
musical,
boss really good.
And sometimes it's hard to describe music. You just gotta hear it. You gotta hear it to enjoy it, but it's very hype. I think that once I heard the music on the final boss, then I heard the melody better on the previous bosses. So now, like, I enjoy the previous boss music more now that I've heard the final boss music. The first boss is extremely cool. It's probably one of my favorite bosses, just in the concept. Like, he's a jailer. Okay, imagine this. A boss that's a jailer. That's his concept. And so we use the imagery of shackles and chains to make a super cool and intimidating boss.
There's a problem with this jailer, okay? Let me tell you what the problem of this jailer is, all right? Let me tell you what the problem is right now. Let me just see if I can find that one specific shot. Here it is. The problem of this jailer is that, wait, what the? No. Image. Not enough nipple. It needed a little bit more nipple. If he had a little bit more nipple, he would have been perfect. Perfect. This right here, perfect amount of nipple. And the pursing of the lips too. Perfect. See, this is perfect, jailer. This, I'm memeing, by the way. I think this one looks way cooler, but whatever. Freaking nipples.
They did it. They did pull it off. It is possible, and he didn't even have to take his shirt off. Though.
Look at that.
That's a shame, really. He really should have had the shirt off. He looks super cool. I loved dodging the flails. Like, you see, like, which side is he swinging the flail on? Even though I myself I'm usually the one flailing. Maybe that's why I like this boss so much. Like, I see myself in him. So new job, maybe? Instead of with a
Kratos?
chain, that'd be awesome. Like a whip. The second boss is the hippocampus, and the first thing I said when I saw the intro cutscene was like, oh my god, look at his neck. His neck, it's like the roof of a mouth. Oh,
it's
weird.
it's
like,
this boss. You guys want to know what this one reminds me of? I got references for all of these, baby. It is what it is. Look. You guys remember this bad boy? Oh, wow. This thing has like no resolution whatsoever. I'm sorry. Let me find a better picture. Damn. So many bad ones. Okay, look. Most of them don't have any resolution for some strange reason. Here's this one. Reminds me a lot of this bad boy right here. Good old gaping dragon. It's got some similar concepts. I mean, it reminds me of it, but it's not like, oh, it looks like it. It reminds me of it.
Who had the idea to be like, what if we design a boss where the scary thing is like, he's like that. In terms of mechanics, I thought the elevation factor in this fight is super cool. Like, you need to be on the raised part or in the grates where the water is flooding in. And I'm curious to see how will that mechanic evolve in Savage. I like the new multi-layered attack marker on the boss where it's like the yellow arrow, then there's the red arrow. Yeah. Though I have a feeling like on Savage, those helpful markers are not going to be there to tell you where to not stand.
You're going to have to look at the boss and figure it out.
Hippocampus to figure it out. My hippocampus never puts his head back on. That's the problem. The third boss is the Phoenix. With a lot of fire to dodge. I'm sorry. Fire. I heard a lot of people complaining that the arena is too orange. So it's really hard to dodge the orange AoEs because orange. And now I didn't really have that problem. Like, I can see the AoEs just fine. It's just, I'm not getting out of it. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I do wonder if this boss will be the mountain reward for this.
Because you stand in fire makes DPS
and
go
finally,
higher.
the fourth circle boss, this vampire guy. We got the jailer. We got Sire Denathris. He's hot.
That's not, I wasn't the only one. I was the only one who said he looks a lot like Denathrius. He definitely does. But it's like, Denathrius is just like generic Dracula dude. So, he looks like Denathrius.
Actually, he doesn't have Matt Mercer as a voice actor, and that definitely loses him some hotness points. Honestly, like, all jokes aside, it is a tragedy that this raid series is not voice acted, because like the raid series is a major part of an expansion. I feel like at least make the boss voice lines voice acted. Like, it could have benefited so much from voice acting. Because it's not voice acted, I don't know whether to say Asphodelos or Asphodelos or Asphodelos. Like, I don't know.
Anyways,
the boss itself is quite simple, and it has to be, because this is a super easier find version of the savage version of this fight, which is bound to be an insanely challenging encounter, it being the final fight in the raid tier. On savage, this is going to be a monster of a fight, I have no doubt of that. So right now on normal mode, we can only see what different elements are in play and how could these elements be made more complicated. There are different elements literally on the floor. There's like lightning, there's poison, and there are orbs with tethers. So, just pray it's not dark rampant. Just pray it's not anything but that, please. I remember in Wrath, in Icecrown, there was a vampire boss where, like, you get bit, and then you have to go bite someone else, or you'll get mind control, and then they have to bite other people. They get mind control, and then they need to buy other people. That was so cool. I would like to see something.
And not only that, but also I think that the people who are bitten also deal more damage. There's also a mechanic like that, if I remember correctly. That was an interesting fight. That was back when Blizzard still knew what they were doing when it came to World of Warcraft, because what she's describing, I think this was an ICC, if I remember correctly. And yeah, that was really, really good raid. Really, really good. It's not the best. Ulduar's the best, but ICC's pretty damn good too.
Something like that. But I doubt it. I'm reminiscing, I guess. Anyway, let's move on to the spoiler section.
Okay, this is going to have spoilers. I'm going to mark it right there. Endwalker spoilers. So you can mute the stream, and then whenever I take this down, you can put it back up or whatever.
Because there's a lot I want to say about story. So I'm going to give you a second. If you need to leave now, that's okay. Thank you so much for watching. And now is the spoiler time, the spoiler zone, heavy spoiler zone. Talking about story for this raid, which is related tangentially to the Endwalker main story. It's complementary. It's on top. It's adding to Endwalker main story. If you've done the Eden story for Shadowbringers, then you will understand how much the Eden story added to the world of the first, the world that Shadowbringers focused on, and how much context it gave to that world and how much it enriched that world's lore. So I'm hoping that we have the same kind of thing happen with these raids, and it seems like it's possible, at least for now. Now, this being the first tier, it's hard to say.
It's like,
there's just so many.
When it comes to the story of the raid, since we're going to talk spoilers, I'm going to, just go straight into the spoiler. Because last time I was like, oh, there's this mechanic about the story of the raid. It's time travel, right? It's time travel. And it's like, I was willing to suspend disbelief on the time travel that we did in the MSQ because it's established, because we did stuff like that in Shadowbringers and all of that jazz. And, it was well explained. And when I first realized when they started talking about Kairos, I was instantly like, okay, so that's what you're going to do to make sure that everybody forgets that I've been here. Somehow something's going to trigger this Kairos thing. It's going to make people forget that I was here. And that's going to be like the story plot that will enable me to go back to the future without people knowing what took place here. Makes sense. But it's like for that, I was like, that's cool. But the fact that now it's like, oh, now you have to go back to the past. And I'm like, but I've already been there, because the future's, it's just that whole thing about you go back and you do everything, because it's basically a bottomless pit if you go down that road, right? You can literally do whatever you want. You can literally do whatever you want with the story if we keep going back because you have the justification that the present has happened. So it doesn't matter what we do in the past, our player character will have done it. And it's like in the MSQ itself, I felt like it worked because it gave you, for starters, it gave you a lot of fan service because, you get to hang out with Emmett and Hithlo and Venat, and that was cool. So that was, it added context. And now it's like, okay, now we're going to do a raid tier that takes place in the past. And I'm just like, I want to move. I don't want to keep going back to the past. That's the way that I feel. It's like, I don't mind it in the MSQ, but in the raid, it didn't click with me as much. Like, I get it. We're going to get additional context on a lot of things. And yeah, sure. But at the same time, it's just something that I don't want him to keep going back to. I don't want to keep going back to the past. I want to move forward. But we'll see. We'll see what the raid story is going to paint out. Maybe I'll eat my words. I hope that I do. But that's how I feel about it right now. And again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's something that I'm not a huge fan of from a narrative standpoint, to constantly keep going back to the past. And it's like, what we do here has already happened. It's already been decided. We're just like going through the motions. I've never been someone that is like, well, this thing happened in my life. I guess fate willed it. It's like, no, I'm not a strong believer of fate. It's like, I make my own goddamn destiny. That's the way that I like looking at things, which is why when you're going back to the past often, it's like, this has already been predetermined. I'm not a huge fan of that stuff. I want to influence what is going to happen. And, I guess we are influencing it, but it's already happened. It's weird. It doesn't click with me as much as other things.
Questions right now. There is a lot of things we want to know and a lot of things that we can't know. Whenever you kill the final boss, you think you're about to get a whole lot of answers about everything, and he's like, I'm not going to give you the answers that you want. I'm not going to tell you. I guess it's for the best because they want to keep your interest. This is a story that has to span throughout the entire expansion. And I think it's something that the Eden raids and Shadowbringers did quite well. And I'll never forget how much time we spent speculating on like, who's the identity of that person. And so maybe that's something we're going to see here too. So being more specific now, I kind of give people a little buffer area of the spoilers. Okay, so I was really excited to be able to return to Elpis. Elpis is a place that I have fixated on extremely hard. And I really wanted any reason at all to go back there. And so this raid story has offered us the opportunity to do that. And I cannot tell you how excited I am about that. I love the fact this is going to be the centerpiece of the raid story. And we'll be able to keep returning here, keep getting more lore and information about this place that is just so beautiful and that I'm so attached to. So that's all great. There is a bit of a time travel problem, though, I think. Because the way that this is explained is that you're able to go back in time, and then when you return, you are returning to the same timeline that you left, and that is a closed loop. That is actually a problem. You cannot eat an apple and then go back in time and burn down the tree that produced that apple, and then come back to the
Holy shit. See, I'm not the only one that has a problem with this, okay? It's not just me. I'm not the problem here.
Timeline. And what this would imply is that every time you do that, you leave, you go back in time, you change something, you return to a new timeline.
Dude, there's a Back to the Future clip.
Over and over every time you go back. My other issue with this stuff is maybe something more to do with me as a person and the way that I think I would personally handle this situation, which is likely maybe not the best way to handle it. If I was sent back in time to a place where I know all of these people, or maybe not all, but a lot, most will die in a fire.
Oh no, dude. She's just gonna be like, well, why don't I just kill Medion as a child? Solve the whole problem. Just solve the whole problem right there.
All of these people, or maybe not all, but a lot, most will die in a fire or die horribly from monsters. I don't think that I could not tell every single person about that. Like, I wouldn't just tell one person, and the one person is like, it's gonna be fine, I got it, and I'd be like, okay. No, if I had an opportunity to return there, I don't think I'd be able to help.
She would spill the beans. She'd be like, "Don't you understand? You're gonna die in a fire." It's like some Terminator 2. You guys remember Sarah Connor? You're all dead. You're already dead. This whole place is.
Help myself. I would need to let every single person know, hey, this is happening, this is coming, you need to get ready. I would literally be like Chicken Little. I'd be like Zepla Little, run around, tell everybody the sky is falling, and like I would just seem like an insane person, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Sarah Connor in Terminator 2. And then at the end of the day, Hermes would be like, Kairos! And just like erase everybody's memory.
But it's something that it weighs heavy on my heart whenever I'm going through these story quests, because I'm building relationships with these characters. You're getting to love and enjoy these characters. You want them to be happy. You want to protect them. That's like one of the reasons that you are.
I can only I haven't seen it yet, but I can only imagine like Zepla's reaction to the. Okay, so we got rated by Very Dave. Before we go any further, let me just warn you guys. Here, Endwalker spoilers. We're talking about spoilers. So first and foremost, Very Dave, thank you very much for bringing your people over. Appreciate each and every one of you. Tip of the hat, Very Dave. Thank you. Thank you very much. And let me just give you a shout. We do shout outs manually here because I'm very, very old school and also very lazy. So guys, make sure to check out Very Dave. Very Dave, really appreciate it. Thank you. Your stream is free for all and Endwalker spoilers too? Okay. Good. Guys, make sure to follow Very Dave. He also does 14, Monster Hunter, and all other good stuff. But yeah, as I was actually I kind of lost my train of thought all of a sudden. What were we talking about? We were talking about how going back in time, she would tell everybody, and then he would Kairos everybody anyway, so it wouldn't really matter. Let me go back a little bit.
Relationships with these characters, you're getting to.
Oh yeah. I know what I was saying. I was like, so I haven't seen it yet, but I'm wondering what Zepla's reaction was when she went through the part where Venat shatters, shatters reality, basically sunders everyone. That must have been really emotional for her at that point.
Enjoy these characters. You want them to be happy. You want to protect them. That's like one of the reasons that you are fighting, is to protect this world. And knowing what's to come, it's rather grim. It's rather upsetting. One of the worst gifts that you could probably have would be knowing how people die, or knowing how you're going to die, or knowing how, like, being able to look at someone and know how they would die. This would be incredibly traumatic. This would be horrible. This would be a curse to carry around. And that's a little bit how I feel whenever I am in Elpis. Now, I assume not every single one of the people that you meet is dying in a fire or is dying from a monster, like eating them alive. But a lot of them are gonna, right? So I don't know. I want to help them, want to save them, want to protect them. And it's cast a little bit of a shadow over the story. Okay, so maybe I'm just being extra. Maybe I'm like thinking about it too hard. That's likely. Moving on. I also really like, I grow attached to characters very quickly, and that's why I want to protect them. La Habrea. Let's talk about La Habrea. I'm very interested to see what he's going to be like. I think I'll be a little disappointed if he ends up being like the bad guy. I think that would be really predictable and boring, and I think it's not going to be the case. I wonder if it was he who was responsible for...
I don't think La Habrea is going to be the bad guy, simply because La Habrea is a very respected member of the Convocation of the 14th. He's the warrior, it's weird though, because La Habrea is so weak. So the fact that they consider him, he's like, oh, it's a warrior, La Habrea the warrior. It's like, he's weak though. He's really weak. La Habrea. I want to know if how Themis becomes a Litibus. Yeah, same.
Like the bit of craziness that his son went through, that caused his son to flee.
Thought I should drop us up to the man that got me hooked on this amazing game alive.
I don't know.
Idnoy, thank you very much for being gross and Ganes for 2 months. Tip of the hat. Appreciate the support. Thank you.
That's like way wild speculation. I'm really curious to find out more about Laha bread. Is the Laha bread cold or is the Laha bread hot? How do we warm up the Laha bread? I'm like 99% sure that the kid we're talking to is Elidibus. It has to happen because Elidibus recognizes us in the main story. He's got to send us back. So I'm quite sure that's him. I'm just thinking back on the Eden raids from Shadowbringers and how invested in Gaia and Reen everybody got. Like, they are main cast characters now. And yes, Reen was in the main story, but Gaia was through the raid story, and she feels just as important as Reen. And so, God, imagine if like you knew that the first was going to go through a final days later, and like Reen and Gaia would be there. Like, that would be horrible. So this is bothering me a lot. Clearly, like, I've talked about it many times. I feel like I'm kind of treading the same old ground, but I want to get all my thoughts out, to get all my worries, concerns, and hopes out.
Almost Great Cat, thank you very much for making Void and Grossly Incandescent. Tip of the hat. Appreciate support. Thank you.
Aside from all those doom and gloom concerns, I'm really, really interested in this story. Like, it asks a lot of interesting questions about where we're going, what's in the next layer, and what's in the layer under that. And will we be able to maybe change how things look as we progress through, like with what happened with Eden, where like you could see the area change the more progress that you made? I wonder if that's going to happen in Pandaemonium 2. I'm looking forward to it. In any case, I think I've said more than enough about these raids for today, but I would really love to hear your thoughts on all of this, not just the story stuff, but what do you think about the gear? Do you like your gear set for your job, for your role? Are you finding the raids themselves?
I like the stats on the gear. The stats are pretty good. That's about it, though.
Sounds fun. Do you like the music? All that stuff, please let me know in the comments section down below. And if you like this video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon or on Twitch. You can also support the channel for free just by clicking the subscribe button or by sharing this video with your fellow Warriors of Light. I almost said friends and Warriors of Light. Yes. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Your Loperate friends. Yay.
The meanest thing.
Loperate friends.
Hey, bud.
Oh, dude. Okay, guys, as per usual, make sure go in there, like, do all the socials. Wait, why did it not click? God damn it, YouTube. Turn music back on. So in terms of like the soundtrack, I'm not the biggest, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the first 3 raid soundtrack. I think it's okay, but it's definitely nothing as special as I've gotten used to from like Coils and Alexander, Omega, Eden. I like those way better. The 4th one's really good though. The 4th one's really, really good. But yeah. And in regards to the raids themselves, I think they're pretty fun, particularly the 3rd one. The 3rd one almost feels like a little bit of practice. The 3rd one and the 4th one, they almost feel like a little bit of practice for Savage and Extremes, because it's not just enough to look at the telegraphs. You have to actually look at the bosses themselves and see what they're doing in order to identify what is coming, in order to pre-position yourselves. So it does feel like a preparation for the higher difficulties of raiding, which I think is really good of them to do, instead of just doing more basic things, I feel like. Which, you know, for a first tier, it's pretty friggin' good. Then again, they do tend to do that. They did the same thing in, I don't remember exactly which tier it was, whatever the wolf was with the shadow. They did that in there as well. So I think that is really cool. But yeah, overall, raids, pretty friggin' fun. Love them. Lots of fun.